Welcome YouTube. This is Bad Takes with Bad Takes in Football. Here with an interesting video for you about how the NFL could be facing some trouble. Before I get into that, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'm on my road to my first 100 subscribers. All subscribers will really help me out. It will help me get my content out there. Please like, comment, tell me any other stories that you'd like me to dive into. I'll get into that story shortly. All right, so diving into this, first things first, you have to understand that these two situations are very different, but at the same time, they both had the same end goal. Now, what do I mean by that? So, first things first, the two coaches that I'm going to be talking about today, one's a former coach, John Gruden, the former head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Brian Flores, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins and now current defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. Both got rulings in their favor against the NFL. Now, the Nevada Supreme Court approved John Gruden's appeal against the NFL, blocking arbitration. Brian Flores had the Federal Court of Appeals give him the same ruling. Now, I'll dive into each story just to make sure you have an understanding of what happened, and then we'll get into why it's a big deal that they blocked this closed door arbitration. So, in John Gruden's case, first let me say this. I do not condone what John Gruden said. I think it was wrong, I think it was disgusting, and he definitely deserved to have a punishment from this. And not being a head coach probably makes sense from that perspective. Now, on the other side of things, everyone has their rights, regardless of the type of person they are. And John Gruden getting emails leaked is wrong, right? The fact that John Gruden's privacy was taken away from him is a problem, right? You're not allowed to do that in this country. And to give you a little bit more of the backstory, back all the way in October 8th of 2021, John Gruden had emails that were leaked, essentially saying racist and misogynistic things. And these emails were to an NFL executive. This story was broken by the New York Times. Again, this came out October 8th. There was so much anger, there was so much drama around this, and understandably so, that John Gruden resigned on October 11th, right? Now, to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what was going on in this situation, right? This was back in 2021, so maybe you don't remember, but the NFL was actually investigating the Washington Redskins at the time, right? The Washington Redskins were the main target of this investigation. That is why his emails were found, is because he was emailing with a Redskins executive. Now, again, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled in favor of John Gruden that essentially blocks closed door arbitration. This doesn't say John Gruden won. All this is saying is this is providing a setting as to where John Gruden's case will be heard, right? And what the Supreme Court said is we were not going to let this go to a closed door NFL arbitration. Now, Brian Flores, again, different situation. Brian Flores originally filed a lawsuit against the NFL and three teams: the Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Giants, alleging racism in their hiring process. Brian argued that both the Giants and the Broncos interviewed him solely because of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule requires teams to interview a minority candidate for these open coaching jobs. And he didn't believe that he actually had a real shot at these. And so he is taking the NFL and these teams to court. Now, again, in a ruling on Thursday, a federal court provided a ruling that said Brian Flores' case cannot be seen in a closed door arbitration as well, right? So those are two coaches, two different people that are going up against the NFL and NFL owners and saying that there was wrongdoing. Now, again, to tell you a little bit more about the closed door arbitration process within the NFL, you have an independent arbitrator who isn't independent at all. The arbitrator in NFL hearings is Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL. His bosses are the owners of these teams. He was hired by these owners of these teams. He is paid by these owners of these teams. And he's supposed to be the person deciding who is right and wrong between coaches or the owners who are paying him. That is fundamentally biased and unfair, and that's exactly what Brian Flores' attorneys said in this situation. And they were right, in my opinion. And the court ruled in their favor as well. There is so much of a conflict of interest when it comes to the person being paid by one side that is also being alleged as in wrongdoing is supposed to make an unbiased, independent decision based off of the facts at hand, right? That's not going to happen. Now, to talk a little bit more about why this is a big deal, this could change the precedents moving forward. Both of these coaches won the hearing in regards to how their cases will be heard, and both found that a closed door arbitration isn't a fair process for these hearings. And so again, this is going to completely change how the NFL might handle these situations in the future. They're going to get a lot of backlash in this situation, I think. There's going to be a lot of money that is going to be handed out to both of these coaches. John Gruden had a 10-year, $100 million contract. He was 3 years into that deal when he resigned. There's no doubt in my mind that the NFL is probably going to have to shell out $100 million for this case, including wages lost as well as court and legal fees, and then also maybe just to get this to go away, right? At the very minimum, these owners are going to have to shell out a lot of money. But on the other side of this, there's going to be some dirty laundry aired here, right? John Gruden already has his dirty laundry out there. Everyone knows what John Gruden did, and everyone's already mad at John Gruden for what he did. But these NFL owners, they are always known for being able to keep their business private, right? I talked about Howell, right? The former NFL PA executive director who has resigned, but they had a collusion case, and the NFLPA and the NFL agreed to keep the findings private, right? They don't like their dirty laundry out there. And this is two different situations where they're trying to do the same thing, and the government said, no, this is wrong. This needs to be heard in an independent due process situation. This needs to have a public hearing. And so this is a huge win for coaches, for players, anyone that has a problem or has had wrongdoing happen to them from the NFL and these owners. Because if you are a judge, if you are an independent arbitrator, and you see this situation happened, you're going to use these events, the John Gruden event and the Brian Flores situation, as precedents moving forward, saying, hey, there is bias, there is a conflict of interest when it comes to having the NFL commissioner be the arbitrator. He's also supposed to be the person keeping the NFL going. Roger Goodell is hired by these owners. Roger Goodell is paid for by these owners. He's there to protect the shield and keep it growing. He's there to make them money. And if you have that person be the independent arbitrator, there's something wrong with that. That, in my opinion, that's corrupt, right? There is no reason in my head why Roger Goodell would ever vote or rule against the owners in any situation unless it was just plain black and white, right? There's no other situation I could see Roger Goodell ruling in a player or a coach or anyone else's favor other than the owners in these situations. He's got way too much pressure on him. I'm not talking about the character of Roger Goodell. I'm talking about just being a human in general and being in that situation Of course you're going to rule in the owner's favor. They're paying you like $40 million a year, right? Hey, sorry guys. What you did was wrong. You're in a lot of trouble. You're going to have to pay John Gruden $100 million. Oh, by the way, you also owe me 50 mil for this year. That's not going to happen. So again, the fact that these courts ruled against the NFL and said that John Gruden and Brian Flores get to see their day in court and not in a closed door arbitration is a huge win for both them, future coaches, players, and anyone that felt wrongdoing from the NFL. I'm going to keep paying attention to the story. I expect this to draw out. I don't think this is going to have a resolution anytime soon, but I'm happy for both of these people. Again, I don't condone what John Gruden said, but I'm a huge fan of Brian Flores. Brian Flores is a great coach, and I know a lot of people around the NFL love and respect him. So I'm happy by the fact that he is going to be able to see his day in court and hopefully get what he deserves. And so for me, again, appreciate everyone watching. Please make sure you subscribe. I'm on my road to 100 subscribers. Make sure to like, comment, tell me what you think about this story. If there's any other stories you'd like me to cover. This is Bad Takes with Bad Takes in Football, signing out.